Alright, guys, today we're going to be reacting to Andrew Wilson defends woman from Muslim girls. Let's jump in.
But I don't agree that women should get drafted. But that's my only disagreement.
Okay. Do you believe in equality?
Like how it is today?
No, just believe in the principle of equality.
No.
You don't. Okay.
Like I'm not a feminist.
Not a feminist.
Yes.
Okay.
So what types of things would you like to see more unequal in society?
Well, this is kind of a hot take, but I really don't think that women should be in politics. And I really think that our country wouldn't be such a dumpster fire if women couldn't vote.
Okay,
Hot
so
take.
if what you're doing
She went in, huh?
is you're creating the regulation of saying that women don't have to be drafted, but they also can't hold political power. Neither myself, well, I wouldn't. I can't speak for Brian, but I have no objections to that.
Right.
I think I think that women should be able to vote.
That's insane. That's insane.
Well, but I mean, I'm talking about the logic of it.
Anti-woman.
So
Brian is trying to protect his podcast.
all I'm talking about is whether or not it logically tracks that if your position is, I don't want women to be drafted, but men should be drafted, and I believe in equality, that's a position that doesn't make any sense. But if it is your position instead, no, I don't want women to be drafted, but in lieu of that, I'm going to make sure they have no political power. So therefore, men get political power, but they must be drafted. That makes sense to me. So whether or not you agree that that should happen, it's still not a position that I think is illogical.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
So let's take time to go back in the day. Let's go to history now. So there was a time when women couldn't vote. There was a time where there was 1800s where we were treated as slaves. When men have the upper hand,
slave.
property,
Erroneous.
we were treated as
Erroneous.
slaves. But then on top of that, they're one of the first people to even discover space and how a rocket could go up to space is a woman. Women have intellect. When a man has a wife, she has intellect to guide him in which way he should go. Not every woman is a slut or whatever you want to call her, an idiot.
That's
You're
not
basically
the
making a
argument
point
he's
that a
making,
woman
but-
doesn't have
She's
the
not
knowledge
smart enough to be in politics.
to see who should guide her country. And I feel like that's like saying that that's
women be
not
drafted?
right.
Should women be drafted?
If
I
they
have no
want to,
idea.
If they
No,
want to,
hold on. Oh my God. Do you know what a draft is?
Yeah, it's to go to the in
they
the army.
pick you to go to the
If-
army.
You literally said if they want to.
If
Do
they
you
pick
know
you
what
to go
a
to the army.
draft is?
It's to going to the war in the army.
They pick
Yeah,
you.
it's
You don't have a
compelled
choice.
conscription.
My
You don't have a
apologies. They
choice.
have no choice to go, whether
Yeah.
they
She's
choose.
saying if they want to
choice.
be in the army. That's what she was saying.
But
not
we
to
are
be
not
drafted.
Women
physically
are-
equipped
Like she was saying,
like
if they
men.
want-
That's
be in the
not
army.
true.
So I can do what you can do.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah,
no,
but
yeah,
hang
when
on.
it comes to
I
physical-
think that
when
what
it
you're
comes to
saying is
physical
fine. I don't have an
things.
issue with what you're saying. Okay, but maybe we can back it up a little bit so that we can see if we can determine if what you're saying makes sense or it kind of doesn't make sense.
I understand. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So you are an Islamicist, correct?
I'm a Muslim. What is an Islamicist? That's not even a word.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'm talking about
I'm not
women.
supposed to-
made
I'm
up
talking
that
about
word. It's
women
not a
power.
word.
I mean,
I'm not
it
talking
is a
about
word,
religion.
but
I'm not
okay.
talking about religion.
So
I'm
if
talking
you're,
about
but if
women
you're a Muslim,
power. Women
I'm
power.
sorry, but can you name the Muslim nation where they have instituted their laws that women are voting?
Egypt. What are you talking about?
Women vote in.
Is that under Muslim law
Morocco.
or is that under parliamentary law?
It's
Are you talking about
parliamentary,
Sharia
but,
law?
well,
Sharia law was removed from
Wait,
Saudi
stop.
Arabia.
One at a time. I can't understand both at one time.
Sharia law was removed from Saudi Arabia, like in what, 2016? I'm not so sure.
So
Women
what
can
was my
drive,
question?
women can
My
vote.
question is, can you name a country that is under Sharia law,
No,
which
I
is
don't
Muslim
know.
law, where women are allowed to vote?
I don't know. I'm not aware of this knowledge.
You don't know.
Lebanon.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
Lebanon
Well, do you
and
think?
what's it called? Jordan. They can
Jordan,
also women can vote. Yes.
under Sharia law.
They're not under. First of all, Sharia law is like, that's not Islam. It's not Muslim. Islam is believing in one God and believing that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is the last prophet. That is what Islam is. So all the other stuff you're talking about is politics, and it's not to do with
It's nothing to do with
religion
religion.
directly.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about, I don't really have anything to say about the draft. I don't know too much about army and stuff, but I know is that women should be able to vote, because when the time of frame, when women wasn't able to vote, how were we treated as women?
Terribly. Terribly.
How-
Is Sharia law Islam? Yes, Sharia is a core part of Islam and is considered the Islamic legal system. Oh my God, this is a person that clearly, at least her base system, is based in Islam. This is the need to be right, folks. In multiplied by 20, she just wanna be right. And I think I mentioned this in one of my episodes. This is what trauma, quote unquote, costs. They're very hard to have around, right? They don't want to be submissive, so they're like cats.
How were we treated?
Wait,
Give me
hold
the
on. I need to do a
factual
little.
evidence
Hang
of
on,
how women were
let
treated
us-
back then.
I'd like to
donated
finish.
$200.
It just doesn't make sense.
Jesus.
Why would you want to be
And she
treated that
said
way?
I was
again?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question.
We were treated like objects.
So if I don't know if you want to get to the super chat first, but I would like to finish the exchange.
Thank you, Gerald.
So let's move back. First, you say in the 1800s women couldn't vote. That's true, but neither could men. So I don't know how that is somehow great for
I think
you
for
to
me,
make
it's
that point, because for most of human history, neither women nor men could vote. Right?
Yes, they-
Only elites and property owners. For
Wait,
like, for
hold on.
instance, the Republic of the United States, a republic, it was not set up for universal suffrage. Most men couldn't vote, and women couldn't vote. And women only got the vote shortly after men got the vote. Very shortly after men got the vote. So this was very,
Like
very
100
close
years.
together. Here's
Like
another
100
interesting
years.
little tidbit for you. Every place where women got to vote on whether or not they wanted to vote, they voted no. They always voted that they didn't want the right to vote. And do you know why? It's because they didn't want to get drafted, and they didn't want to have to take on parliamentary duties compelled against their will. That's why. So it makes a lot of sense if men are
So
defending the country.
you're saying in order for me to have the right to speak up
Private
and choose
chat.
who I want as my president in the place that I live in, I have to go in the war and fight, even
No,
though
no,
I'm
no.
not.
I'm not saying you have to. I'm just asking for the potential of it.
But it's
So here's
like-
what I mean by this. I'll explain it so that you understand. I'm just asking for the potentiality. Meaning, if there is some threat to the United States, that and all men are going to be compelled potentially to go and thwart that threat, then I think that you also should be compelled to go thwart that threat. Or why should you be allowed to vote? You
That's a
should not
good
have
question.
a stake, in other words, to start wars with other countries because you're women, but then not have to fight them because you're women.
How am I starting a war by voting
Oh
president?
man, this lady is kind of slow. She's slow. She's not understanding the argument.
Who's president?
Yes, if you vote, you're voting in politicians. And are you saying politicians don't start wars?
I mean, yes, they do, but I don't
They
think
do.
that I believe that
So it's
women have a
interesting
right.
that you can vote for somebody who can then start a war which you will never have to go fight in.
That's not true, because
It is true.
if I decide myself, if I go to the army and I train my body to be like a GI
That's
Joe,
not compelled.
then yeah, I'll go
That's
join the
not
war
my
too.
argument.
I don't have a problem with that.
That's
I just feel
volunteer.
like
Hold on.
you guys are debunking the woman's mind and saying
Hold on,
she just
hold
because
on.
she doesn't have the physical fit. Go ahead.
Hold on. Okay. Couple things here, because Andrew raised a good point. You countered by saying it was 100 years. So when it comes to the right to vote, only 50 years passed between the ratification of the 15th Amendment, which gave all men the right to vote in 1870, and the 19th Amendment, which was the woman's vote in 1920. So only 50 years in America that all men could vote, that women could not. Nick, pull it up. Okay, countries with universal right to vote. So, the brown is no universal right to vote. So this means like men and women. The light blue is universal right to vote for only men. The other blue is universal right to vote for men and women. And this is this for the world? Did they just sort of
Yeah,
aggregate?
it's just universal right. Yeah.
Aggregate data. So this trope that there was like long stretches of human history where men just had all this power and women didn't. Most men couldn't vote. Most women couldn't vote. Men, if they wanted to vote, they had to go and die and fight in wars for their country. So their rights.
No, they still weren't allowed to vote even then.
That is
Damn.
true. But I'm talking like for the short period of time that men did have the right to vote and women didn't, that
Even that was localized
It
for
just
most
goes
of it.
back to gender roles.
Why do you want to revoke our rights as a
Let me say
woman in this
something.
country?
That's not
Let me
my
just say
argument.
something. I was trying to
my
say. Let me
argument.
say something. I was just
Oh,
trying to
hang
say
on.
that.
I'll
I was just trying to
address
say I
this
don't
point.
have anything to say about the draft because
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
not
but let me
have
address her
enough
point.
knowledge.
So
But I'm saying.
hang on. Let me
Go
address
ahead.
her point, and then we'll get into yours. I
Okay, go
promise.
ahead. No problem.
So you say, why do you want to take away women's right to X? Okay. I think that this is a valid question, and so I'm going to once again reiterate this argument. If there is the potential that all men in the United States can be drafted and sent into conflict because they all mandatory that they have to register for the draft, period, it's mandatory, then I think if that is true, they deserve the stake to be able to elect politicians who have the potential to start wars. And women who do not have to go fight those wars should not be able to elect politicians who then...
Yeah, the guy said that rule, but rule comes when if you rule over somebody, you have a responsibility over that person. So you as a man need to be very responsible and take care of that person. You just not simply rule and you let them go to die. No, you have to rule with responsibility.
can start a war that they will not have to fight in. So if you make this concession, yes, I think women should be mandatorily drafted, then fine, then we can just do that.
Okay, so when men were drafted into World War I and World War II, what were the women doing? You're acting like they didn't do anything. They were taking care of the country. They were working. They weren't dying for you.
Man, she's just dumb as hell, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll see you in our next one.